Hello, I'm Spencer Snow. Most people use modern computers today for Googling things, such as what 2 plus 2 is, educational purposes because you just got to study for that college exam that's tomorrow, or entertainment reasons. You pull up a game of TF2, you die a lot, you lose, you get mad, but then you try again and then you're happy. Now, modern computer applications, such as simulations, databases, and even Microsoft applications, all correlate to that last topic, entertainment. You may be surprised, but a little bit of DNA that was left over by the Mario Brothers is in fact inside your Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint, as most basic programming was learned through the early stages of video gaming that Nintendo and Sega went through. Now, I'm credible to talk about this, as I myself am a gamer, and I have found interest in the programming aspect that comes along with video games and the development of applications on modern computer systems. Now, video games were the testing grounds for most of these applications, due to the fact that programming was very simple back then. It was a new topic. But with video games becoming a popular place in the market, programming became more and more accessible to companies. Now, today we're going to talk about the effect on complex code that video games had, the effect that they had on artificial intelligence, and common coding softwares that are used in many college classes today whenever it comes to Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Access, even using old DOSBox. Now, video games helped diversify the development for code for the first time majorly. A good example would be id Software's hit titles Doom and Wolfenstein 3D. As Cable has stated, the primary coding language was Code C. Now, with this code came a bit of variations, and it allowed for 3D environments to be developed as the player could look around in areas. And this programming was later used in developments such as Google Earth. Now, the code also, like any other language, can have a little bit of lingo. It has some slang, and you can use that to your advantage. An example of this would be Apogee's hit game Blakestone, which used Wolfenstein and Doom's engine and programming language to develop a game that was, in fact, better than what id Software could have created. Another important game that was a part of programming in modern day was Quake. But this was more for 3D programming, such as CGI in modern-day movies. It uses the modern C++ programming, as Cable has stated. It is a more efficient way of programming polygons and pixels on the screen and allowing them to have independent behavior based on their AI dignifications. Now, speaking of AI, video games helped with AI development. As Moss has stated, Wolfenstein 3D considered all positions situationally. An enemy soldier could experience a door open in their view, BJ Blazkowicz, which was the main character of Wolfenstein 3D, walk in front of them, they could get shot in the back, and they could lose sight of BJ Blazkowicz. And this also brought along different questions for artificial intelligence to follow, and what many other game programmers followed into their next careers for AI development, such as, Moss has stated, how long should they follow Blazkowicz? And other questions that came along with it, such as, should they shoot? Should they become stun-locked? Should they pursue if they are on low health? Questions that they ask themselves and use coding to define. Now, AI development was also brought into a new algorithm in modern-day gaming, in fact. An example would be Alien Isolation, with Moss stating that it had two essential AIs, Directive AI and Alien AI, where they would correlate with each other and respond to the player's interactions to the environment. Along with this, there were complex nodes that were located in Alien Isolation, as sequences were getting more complex and become multi-layered in depth, as Moss has stated. These multi-layered nodes allowed for questions to be asked. And then with those questions being asked, it could develop new answers in hundreds of different ways, depending on the situation, and thus allowed for the AI today in modern computing programs, such as Microsoft Word's autocorrect, to essentially figure out what you're trying to say, even though you typed in flurriganarganargamanner. Now, games also helped introduce common coding techniques. And game programming, in fact, helps with simple programming. Computer science in game states, my take is that I'd like to test people to use those skills in developing educational software. That is mostly because if you can develop something or understand something that is in the gaming industry, you can more than likely understand simple software that's used in educations. Renton has also stated, I always tell my students a good programmer can program anything. And that is true. If you can go to more complex things such as games, who's to say you can't develop simpler things like a calculating program for online? Now, gaming also helps educators connect to students. Incorporating gaming into instructional design, especially in online degree programs, can keep students engaged and immersed, as stated on Computer Science Impact on Games. And along with that, games can also incorporate many different common subjects, which is used to engage learners in traditional subjects like math, physics, English, music, and art. Because when's the last time you played a great video game that didn't have great graphics, wonderful music, and, in fact, wonderful story? Now, knowing the influence on gaming today and how programming has been affected by it, next time that you pull up your Microsoft PowerPoint, you might want to thank Mario for that, because he kind of had a little bit of a hand in it.